Libero Futbol'dan hepinize merhaba. Bugün Ajax ve Liverpool gibi takımlarda oynamış, ülkemizde Kasımpaşa, Beşiktaş, Galatasaray ve Eyüpspor gibi takımlarda izlediğimiz, Hollanda milli takımında forma giymiş olan Ryan Babel var. Kendisiyle keyifli bir röportaj yapmayı umuyoruz. Hi Ryan, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I hope you're well.
I'm a little bit sick, but it's all right.
Okay, get well soon.
Yes, thank you.
I want to start at the very beginning of your career. Was the moment you joined Ajax Academy? You truly decided, yes, I'm going to be a professional footballer from now.
Well, it was not a decision because you still have to prove yourself, but that was a good first step that Ajax was thinking that I was good enough to be part of the academy. So it was a good sign, yes.
How it feels to be in an academy having world reputation as one of the world's best?
Very special because, yes, already at that time, Ajax had a great reputation. So, if you're a part of it, you're special. And like I said, dealing with pressure from very early on, you had to deal with it and you had to learn how to deal with it. I think that helped and shaped my mentality later on when I became professional.
And you won titles with Ajax, played in the Champions League for the first time, earned a call up to the national team, and then you made a big money move to Liverpool, one of the world's biggest teams. And the players like Steven Gerrard, Xabi Alonso, Fernando Torres were already there. Do you remember meeting them for the first time? How did they treat you?
Yeah, it was a special moment joining such a big team. I joined them on training camp in Switzerland, and they were already together. And it was before my first training. They all welcomed me. They were all very polite. I had only good memories of joining. And immediately, the way they did things was different than I was used to at Ajax.
How are the things are different?
I would say just the approach of training sessions. You can tell already for them it was very important to a lot of gym, physical stuff, running. And in Ajax, everything was mostly with the ball. So I had to adapt the physicality of the different type of training sessions, also the different ways of meetings. The language, of course, was different. So it was a whole new world for me.
And did you ever feel pressure on your shoulders because you were very young at that time and they paid a high transfer fee for you?
Well, yeah, the pressure was always there, I think. And at the time, yeah, the transfer fee was pretty high. So of course, you are aware you have to make sure you prove yourself to show that you're worth it. So immediately, I felt like I had to perform.
And there's also one day that Beşiktaş once never want to remember. Maybe you remember. And you played a big part in it. 8-0 game against Beşiktaş and you scored 2 goals against Beşiktaş. Did you ever imagine that one day you're going to play for that team and even win a championship with them?
No, at that time, of course, I had no idea that that would be on my path. Yeah, it was, I think, a very unique situation of joining such a great team later on my career. I know, of course, for the club and the fans, it's not a great memory. In that moment, that was a great memory for me. But again, it's a football match. You can win, you can lose. That happens sometimes. I don't think Besiktas has to be embarrassed. It was a different time, different players, different manager. The club, what it represents today, doesn't necessarily means that it has to be the same so many years ago. So later on, I joined them, and again that was a different time.
Yeah.
I think a way better team, and clearly, as you saw, I think still, in my opinion, one of the best Besiktas teams so far that Besiktas have had.
Let's talk about your move to Turkey. You were still getting chances at Ajax, and maybe you could play it for bigger clubs or even leagues. Yet you decided to join Kasımpaşa. How did you make that decision?
Well, at that time, specifically that transfer window, the teams that I wanted to play for had no space for my position. I, of course, had other interests from different teams, but they were not playing my type of football. And the reason why I chose Kasımpaşa was mainly because Shota Arveladze was the coach. I knew him from Ajax. He came to talk to me in Amsterdam and showed me the project. So for me, it was a new challenge. Also, I think one of the very first times that I felt like a coach wanted to make me and give me more of a leader role. So for me, it was more of a challenge to grow up more, and to be part of a project that could maybe, be great. Their ambition was to reach European football within 5 years, and that's the reason why I chose to go to Kasımpaşa.
Before signing for Kasımpaşa, what did you know about Turkey? And once you arrived, which parts of Turkey surprised you the most, like in football or your daily life?
What I discovered is that, Turkey is a very big country. They have a lot of different identities in different cities. I don't think all the cities are identical. Some cities are more beautiful than other cities, of course. You have, of course, cities with poverty, but you also have some cities that are more rich. And I think, in general, what stood out was the very hospitality treatment you get from Turkish people. They made me feel welcome from day one. And yeah, I have good memories. This is also the main reason why I was able to stay for such a long time in Turkey, and that I wanted to remain in Turkey. I was very privileged to live in Istanbul for my whole time, and I think Istanbul is an incredible city. So I think Turkey became my second home. I always love to go back. I remain having a good relationship with the Turkish people.
And what about the level of the Turkish league that time? How did you find it?
Oh, it was not easy. Was not easy. Even though it was not easy, I think it was different because I do remember in the mentality. I remember that you were only allowed 5 foreign players at the time, and because of that, that means that the Turkish players knew that they were always going to play, and because of that reason, you also saw that in training sessions that they not always wanted to work as hard. And that sometimes caused some problems in training sessions because as an European, you always have the mentality to work hard in training. And then, of course, if your teammate is not working as hard, but he knows he's going to play, then you feel it's not fair, right? So, and then later on, of course, you saw that they changed the rules. Turkish teams were able to sign more foreign players, and I think that helped to put the Turkish players more on their toes realize like, okay, now I have to really do my best and able to make the teams, and I think that's why we have such a better and higher level now in Turkish football.
After short spells in UAE and La Liga, you returned Turkey with Beşiktaş. And 5 months later, you were celebrating championship. You have Abubakar, Quaresma, Talisca and you, and it was a very strong attacking line. How do you remember that team and that title-winning season?
Yeah, I think we had a very superior team. Immediately when I joined, I was very happy because it was a team that played my football. We had good synergy between everyone. Everyone had the ability to win games and be important. It was a good balance between foreigners and Turkish players who were in the team. And yeah, I think, the best Turkish team that I played in, the best time of my career, I think. Yeah, those moments, of course, you never forget.
And moving from Beşiktaş to Galatasaray, you disappointed many Beşiktaş fans, even made them angry maybe. And one of the podcast you once said, I couldn't explain the reason to them at that time. I hope one day I can and they will understand. Would you like to explain it now? And how did you make that decision?
Well, firstly, I didn't move from Beşiktaş to Galatasaray. I went to Fulham.
Yeah. And then
So,
yeah.
so I went to Fulham, and then after that, Galatasaray offered me a contract. At that time, and that's what I'm saying, because the Turkish fans, they don't know always what's happening behind the scenes.
Mhm.
At that time, I asked my agent to speak with Beşiktaş first if they wanted to sign me back, and they didn't want to sign me back. So who should the fans be angry with Beşiktaş, the president, or with me? At that moment, Galatasaray was the only option for me to return to Turkey. So why would you not return to Turkey if that's your only option? So, and like I said, that is just from a choice standpoint. The other reasons, obviously, and I don't think this is still the right moment, but we had, of course, President Fikret Orman and his board members, and I think they unfortunately at that time just, I would say, manipulated the situation a lot with talking about my position. one of the most important things for any football player is to feel respected and appreciated. And if you don't feel that anymore, then your feelings for being there or making a decision can change instantly. We can see that today with Mo Salah, who has been for as long as we remember the main player for Liverpool. Right now, the way he has been treated, things can change within a few weeks. And maybe he played his last game already. So this is football. And I believe if football teams understand that, then I feel like they should learn from that and be more intelligent and more clever to deal with players if they feel like they are important to them. So at that time, I feel like I was a little bit disrespected. And that, of course, influenced a lot of my decision making because, again, I had a good position in Beşiktaş. I didn't necessarily wanted to leave, but the reason I left to Fulham was because I didn't receive the contract extension that I deserved.
You made it very clear. And Fenerbahçe Galatasaray games are considered one of the biggest football rivalries in the world. And you played many different derbies in your career, but how did it feel like to take part in those games? Do you have any specific moment that you never forget?
Yeah, many of the derbies, but not only with Galatasaray, even with Beşiktaş, I think even with Beşiktaş against Fenerbahçe or Beşiktaş against Galatasaray. I think at that time, even all the derbies between the three teams were very special, you could feel it. The level was very close. But yeah, I would say most of the derbies, have a special memories. They were very unique games. If you win them, it's extra special. It makes the club happy. It makes the fans happy. If you are able to win in the stadium of the rival, then of course it's even more extra special. That the losing team, will be angry, and that makes the sports of football in Turkey, I think, very beautiful.
There was one thing you said. When I was playing for Galatasaray, there were some days we said, okay, we're lucky today. Referee helped us a bit. And this caused a huge reaction in Turkey actually. And
Yeah.
from these days, there's also a huge criticism against Turkish referees. Can you explain what you meant by saying that?
I think, it's, and I think, of course, I can never control how the media wants to write about it, right? And I can never control how people want to understand it. Yes. But I think for me, this is a matter of intelligent people and people who are not so intelligent. I think we don't actually need to speak about it. It's obvious for everyone who watch Turkish football. And my comment that I made at that time my intention was not to put Galatasaray under the bus, because that is how the media eventually wrote about it, which I understand, of course, it's normal in Turkey. They always twist your words. It's fine. But my whole point was actually to criticize, yes, the referees. You don't need to be a genius to see that the decision making for Turkish referees is by far so much different compared to the UK, but to the Netherlands, to Spain, to Italy, to even Belgium, but also even to other referees in the world. It's a huge difference. And because of that, it causes a lot of controversial topics and conversations. So when I said that comment about we were lucky, I also experienced that when I was at Beşiktaş. It's not just Galatasaray, but we also experienced watching Fenerbahçe games as Galatasaray player or as a Beşiktaş player when Fenerbahçe was winning against, I don't know, Trabzonspor, and because of the referee, he made a decision that was in favor for Fenerbahçe. And then we have the players talk about it like, oh, Fenerbahçe is lucky there. That happened not one time, it happened multiple times over many years. So we know that. So for me to then say something about it publicly, and then now people are surprised, like, why did you say that? Come on, nobody is surprised. Everyone knows it. I just had the balls to say it out loud. And it had nothing to do with Galatasaray, had nothing to do with Beşiktaş, had nothing to do with Fenerbahçe. It has everything to do with the referees. We saw recently, even Jose Mourinho said something about it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to pretend that, what Ryan said, it's such a surprise. No, everyone knows it. The Turkish people know it. So let's just talk about the problem and how can we improve the referees so that the Turkish football can be taken more seriously and be taken to a higher level. Because of course it's an issue if we talk about should we maybe hire foreign referees to whistle in Turkey. That should be a very offense for Turkish football, in my opinion. Why? No, just educate the Turkish referees better so that they understand that they have a big impact on games and on results. Because nothing is more frustrated than if you work so hard as a team, but you lose a game based on a human decision from a referee, even you know you didn't deserve it. That is, I think, it's a disgrace for the football game. So my criticism was not towards any clubs, it was towards the referees. And I think any person who takes this the wrong way and be like, oh, why you talk bad about Galatasaray or bad about Beşiktaş or Fenerbahçe, I just say you're unintelligent because you didn't understand what my intention was. So that's my message.
Yeah, and you think that foreign referee will not solve the problem, right?
Listen, I mean, if every game is whistled by foreign referees, then yes, it could solve the problem. But then at the same time, I don't know how the Turkish Federation is or put pressure on Turkish referees, right? So maybe the foreign referees will now experience like, oh, this is a different federation. I cannot whistle how I want to whistle normally. I have to whistle because the federation puts pressure. I don't know. I don't know about what's happening behind closed doors. People talk about corruption. People talk about many things. It's just speculation. We don't know. All can say is that it's clear that it has a lot of influence on football games and results. And why do situations like for example what happened I don't know how many years ago, where a president, was it Gençler Birliği, who has to come on the pitch and hit
I
a
think
referee?
Ankara Gücü, I think.
Was it
Ankara
Ankara
Gücü
Gücü?
played.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, does this happen anywhere in different countries? It doesn't. But it happens in Turkey. It happens for a reason, because people get angry at Turkish referees. I don't say it's right, but it happens in Turkey because it's clear the decision making is so bad that people get angry. It's maybe a decision that is bad for Ankara Gücü, and they can get relegated because of the referee. Poor decision. Of course, it's a lot of money at stake. You know, financial reasons at stake. Then if a referee can spoil your game, I think that's very bad.
You played two of the Turkish biggest clubs. And how do you describe differences between Beşiktaş and Galatasaray? For example, in their philosophy, their fan base, etc. Maybe even your feelings when you play for them.
I think they are both unique teams. They're both big teams. Look, it's every club in every league has its own history, right? You have in Holland, you have Ajax, you have Feyenoord, you have PSV, and they all feel like we are the biggest team, right? It's part of football. It's part of ego. It's part of you're being proud. But the fact is that Ajax has the most titles won from Dutch teams. So I would say that makes Ajax the biggest team in the Netherlands, regardless of whatever, right? I think that's the same. That's the same with Turkish football, right? You know, you have I believe Galatasaray who won the most trophies.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I think that defines them to be, you know, statistically be the biggest Turkish team. Now, when I say that, I once many years ago I compared Galatasaray to the Ajax of Turkey, and then I said Beşiktaş is maybe the Feyenoord or could be the PSV, you know. But then again, it was taken the wrong way, and then the Beşiktaş fans were angry with me because they felt, oh, you disrespect Beşiktaş. I don't disrespect Beşiktaş. I'm just making a comparison, as in, hey, the fact is Galatasaray won more trophies than Beşiktaş. You don't have to be a genius to understand that. But that doesn't take away that they are both unique and great teams in itself. Like, honestly, like playing for Beşiktaş was a privilege. I was very fortunate. I was very happy. An incredible stadium, incredible fans. And it was my best time in football, you know, also. So I don't know why fans and specifically Turkish fans often take things or they read things the wrong way. I feel like they should understand and know sometimes where the message comes from. And if they know it comes from Ryan Babel, they should know there's only good intentions. Like, I have no reason to disrespect Beşiktaş. I love the club. It's sometimes I don't understand.
And you also say that in your career, in your days in Turkey, that Beşiktaş team, was it the enjoyable time for your football career?
Yeah, one of the most enjoyable times. Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. If you play in a good team and if you win, that makes an experience much better, right? If you play in a good team but you lose, the experience is not so good. In Galatasaray, we had a great team when I was there. You know, my first year, all the big stars, but we were not champion. You know, we didn't win every game. That puts pressure. That makes the experience different. But again, like I said, that's football. only big names doesn't always win you titles. It has to be the right names together.
After Galatasaray, you returned to Ajax and then moved to Eyüpspor. What was that experience like? How do you remember your days in Eyüpspor?
I had a great time in Eyüpspor. And of course, I wish things could be different. I wish we were able to make it to the Super League my first season. What I realized is that, Eyüpspor is still a very young club who needs to learn a lot. It's run by very passionate people, want to control everything. And I don't think that is the right decision. If they are serious about growing Eyüpspor, they have to put the experts in place and let the experts do the job, right? I think it's very unprofessional if a president comes in a dressing room and starts shouting at the players because we lost. It's not your position. You can be the president respectfully, but you're not the coach. That have effect. Also, I would say performances and players. Like I said, I was there to try and help them, but also I'm just a football player, I'm just an individual. If my feedback or whatever is not always been taken into consideration, then of course, you make your decision. But I do want to point out, I was one of the reasons that they were able to sign Arda Turan.
Really?
Because before they didn't want to sign Arda Turan. They wanted to sign a different Turkish coach because their comments were, oh, Arda has no experience. We need an experienced coach. And I said, no, that's ridiculous because you needed the right coach with the right vision. And you see what Arda did for Eyüpspor. So that's what I'm saying. You need experts to put in right positions. And if a football team or a football club is run by people who have no football knowledge or football experience, then it's very difficult to grow a football club. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think it's a beautiful club. I think if they make the right decisions, I think they have a bright future. But it's up to them, if they let their ego get in the way, then they can also run the club to the ground, and that would be a shame. But I had good memories at Eyüpspor. They gave me a chance to stay in Istanbul, and I did my best, with everything that I could.
And you said that the president came to dressing room and shouted after you lose a game. Was it the first time in your career you experienced something like that?
Yes. I mean, it didn't happen in Galatasaray. It didn't happen in Beşiktaş. It didn't even happen in Kasımpaşa. So, even though I know in general, Turkish people are very passionate, but this was a different type of passion, right? I feel like at that moment you're undermining the authority of the manager because you hired a manager to be the boss over the players. So don't undermine the manager because now I feel like you're disrespecting the manager. Let the manager shout. That's his job, right? You're the president. Run the club.
Yeah.
Let the manager do his job. Otherwise, don't be the president. Come and become the coach. In that, my opinion, and I'm sure it will reach headlines, but it's just the truth. It's just the truth. I think at times it was very unprofessional, in my opinion. And if they are serious about growing Eyüpspor and make it a successful team in Turkey to compete and stay competing in Super League and not go back down, I would say they would have to change those things.
What were the differences playing in Super League and Turkish second division?
Well, I think the difference in general was, of course, different stadiums, different locations, not always the best conditions necessarily, but not necessarily easier. No, it was actually still very tough playing in the second league. Yeah, you saw that tactically sometimes teams were all over the place, and that made it a very difficult game. But to be honest, I've enjoyed playing in the second league. It was still very tough. You still wanted to win. You had a lot of good teams. Samsunspor at that time was an incredible team. I enjoyed my time.
After Eyüpspor, you decided to retire. And do you miss your days as a footballer? How does retirement feel right now?
Yeah, I had a time where I missed playing. I didn't want to retire when I retired. It was just because Eyüpspor had put me in a bad position at that time. And of course, if you're 37, then it's very difficult to find new teams. They will talk about your age. So I understand that. So that forced me to retire. I think sometimes I believe God has written your journey. So I've accepted that road for me, and now I'm in a peaceful place. I enjoy my freedom. I can travel. I can spend more time with my children. I can do what I please.
Also, looking at your career as whole, are you satisfied what you achieved, or do you think sometimes like I could have done more in my football career?
Yeah, I think as football player you always wanted more. I do believe. I think if I had a little bit of luck, sometimes that I probably could have achieved more. Nowadays, I'm very grateful for my career, also the clubs that I've played for, and I think if you see, it's not for every player that can play 20 years professional football, at the highest level. And even till my last days, for my age, still being in a club like Galatasaray, for example, it's not for every player who can do that. And so I'm very happy. I'm now very happy. And like I said, this was probably the journey that was for me. And yeah, I'm happy about it.
And also, let's talk about your life today a bit. I think you're involved in fashion, real estate, music, and cryptocurrencies. Can you tell us the projects that you've been currently working on?
Yeah, I do a lot of different things, and I think my main focus is to, I would say, create a platform where I can help other athletes to make better financial decisions. I've recently started a new podcast. It's called The Legacy Show. It's together with a different host called Armin. And we actually talk about the entrepreneurs behind a football player, the decisions that they make financially, good and bad, and how they become successful entrepreneurs also outside of their football. To talk about that and to show other football players how they are doing that, I think that could help football players to make better decisions and to see who can be in the right environment as good friends or who are bad friends. Yeah, we're gonna see how this podcast is going. We recently released the first episode. We talked about Gerard Piqué, what type of business decisions he made. He of course came with the Kings League, who helped him, how did he invest. And I think these are stories that needs to be told more, and that can help, different football players.
And do you have any advice for the football players playing right now, like in their investment side as an entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, enjoy football, but a career is very short. You never know, you can get injured. So I would say before you try to enjoy the life only, make sure you first invest in a good foundation. Once you retire, you have a foundation and you're not stressed, and you can enjoy your life. And I think every football player should do that.
And I think you are living in Dubai right now. Why did you choose Dubai as home?
I think Dubai is easy. Of course, the tax regulations here are very affordable. Also, the way of living, and a lot of people who want to do business, they live here. So it's very easy to meet people who can help you grow. Yeah, a lot of opportunity, and of course, the weather is good. So I think a great location to live.
Do you have any plans for future related with football? For example, do you have any plans maybe become a coach or a mentor or other projects?
Well, maybe in the future, I do have the ambition to become a president of a club. Hopefully, I can set the right example on how to help a football club grow. I believe management is the core of a success or a failure of a football club, not players. If a football club has the right management, the right people in the right places, then it can even survive the storms and the bad periods in football season. So learned and see a lot of errors, I believe, in the Turkish ecosystem, how clubs being run there. And yeah, maybe one day, I have a chance to be part of a football team and to really influence for a good way.
Would buying a football team in Turkey interest you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So these are things I would probably will look at when the time is there. Then of course, you guys will see me back.
Do you still follow Turkish football? What do you think about the current situation of Galatasaray and Beşiktaş?
I don't watch as many games, of course. I watch the derbies and the important games, but yeah, it's clear the football teams have changed a lot over the years. A lot of investment has been made to attract good players. I was actually very surprised about that because I know the Turkish economy has only become worse over the past year. So, a lot of people ask me like, Ryan, where do they get the money from? And I was like, I have no idea. But at least, for the Turkish people, I know football is a way for them to at least sometimes find happiness, in their lives. And, football is mostly everything for the Turkish people. So at least for entertainment purposes, I think it's good that we have all these players, play in Turkey now, whether it's in Galatasaray or in Beşiktaş or even in Fenerbahçe and other teams. And it makes the Turkish league looks better. And put up the quality more for sure.
Do you have any players that you enjoy watching in Turkish league?
I mean, I think, of course, everyone loves Osimhen, and I think he's very consistent, very passionate, very important, of course. It's not easy for a foreigner to be so consistent in the Turkish league, and we have seen many players, do well. Icardi, of course, was very important. Other positions like Torreira, who's been very of the core of the midfield for a few years now. And I think it should not be underestimated how difficult it is to survive in Turkish football.
You describe Turkey as your second home. And do you visit Turkey nowadays? Is there anything you missed about
Yeah.
being here?
I have not been able to visit as much, but I definitely intend to do that more. But of course, the Turkish food is clear, but also the people just in general. My old neighborhoods in Istanbul. Last time I was there, I played a lot of paddle with Atiba Hutchinson, so that was very nice. But absolutely, if I have a chance, I will definitely visit.
You said that you like Turkish food. Which dish is your favorite?
I think my favorite one is mante for sure. I think the right mante with the right amount of yogurt and chili is delicious. It's good. It's clear you have so many different dishes, so many different desserts. It's if you don't watch out, you can become you can gain weight very quick.
Finally, do you have any message for Turkish fans?
Oh, the message always stays the same, obviously, I miss them. I appreciate them, what they have done for my career and the support that I still get. So, and hopefully we'll see each other soon again.
Bugün Ryan Babel bizlerleydi. Kendisiyle keyifli bir röportaj yaptık. Bizi desteklemek için videoyu beğenmeyi ve bizi takip etmeyi unutmayın. Sonraki videolarda görüşmek üzere. Destekleriniz bizim için önemli. Videoyu beğendiyseniz ve bize destek olmak istiyorsanız lütfen kanalımıza abone olun.